Hello, treasures. Welcome back. I am making some dragon eggs today. I have 3 different kinds for you. If you want to see how that turns out, stick around. So I'm doing the first egg with one you may have seen before, a little trick with some thumbtacks. You paint them, or I've seen a lot where people use fingernail polish, but I didn't have any this kind of icy blue, which is what I needed. So I have this paint. I have this metallic blue paint. I'm going to paint the thumbtacks. I'm going to do 2 coats of that, letting them dry in between. And I'm also going to paint this foam egg. So I paint the foam egg just in case after sticking thumbtacks in there, there's any spots that show. I don't want to show white. I want to show the blue behind it. So that's why I'm painting the egg. I don't need, perfect, great coverage. I just want at least 1 semi-coat. Then I'm going to put the thumbtacks in. I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to just go in a circle and place one right next to the other, making sure that they overlap. And I start at the bottom because I want them to ultimately feel like they're coming from the top down. Here is what I have after about 450 thumbtacks. 450. So I need some more. And then maybe I'll get to finish. Here we are, egg number 2. This egg is going to be glued shut so that it doesn't have the chance of popping open after or in the middle of our crafting it. I am going to decoupage this with tissue paper. I have this kind of peachy orangish. It's a little bit more on the orange. It's kind of coral, like a dark coral, I guess, color. And so I'm starting at the bottom of this egg, and I'm just applying Mod Podge and then squeezing the tissue paper around the egg. And I want some wrinkles, and I want kind of lines and extra tissue paper at the top of the egg. So once I get that completely done, then I'm going to rip it to where I still have some tissue paper at the top, but I've taken the majority of this extra tissue paper off because it's way too much. And I'm going to let this dry and then come back and do a second coat just around where the seam was, because you can see the seam fairly well still. And so I wanted to do a second layer just around the seam to try and hide that seam, smooth it out just a little bit more. And after that dried, then I'm going to do another layer all the way around again. So repeating step 1 of this egg, Mod Podge, starting at the bottom, putting the tissue paper where it is crumpled and kind of has lines with the extra tissue paper hanging off of the top. But with this layer, I also want to try to avoid some of those lines. I don't want to necessarily glue down the lines of tissue paper that I had from the first layer. So I'm being careful to kind of glue between those lines so they'll still be there at the end after this step. We'll see that in just a minute. Again, I'm squeezing this down, and I'm going to let this dry and then rip it off close to where that seam is, where it's actually glued. And I'm leaving this where it kind of has a little bit extra. So this egg is going to be a flame dragon egg. So these are flames coming off of the egg. So you just kind of rip the tissue into flame shape, or however you want your flame to look here. And so I keep ripping and kind of molding. Now I'm painting all of the tissue paper that is actually adhered to the egg red. And so that's all of the bottom part and all of the sides. But when I get to the part that I ripped away, I'm only going to paint the red up to the portion that it starts to pull away from the egg, because I'm putting down the base color of our egg and I don't want to paint the flames completely red. So a little bit of red right at the base is nice, but the flames I'm going to come back and paint in just a minute. So I will move them out of the way in order to paint the top of the egg inside that kind of flame area we created red. And I'm going to do that all the way around. And then I actually do let the red dry. And now I'm coming in with a reddish orange and I'm painting the base of the flames. So this is the part of the tissue that is just first pulled away from the egg. So not the very tips, because the very tips are going to be a brighter color. So then I'm dry brushing this kind of reddish orange down the rest of the egg. So I kind of wanted it to have that feel where that fire kind of is building from the base of the egg and really is taking over the whole thing. So I did a little bit of dry brush to the whole egg. I did come back with just a solid orange, not a reddish orange, but just a regular orange, and kind of paint closer to the edge, closer to that tip area, just to give it a little bit blending between the reddish orange and the yellow orange, yellowish orange that I'm gonna hit on the very end of the tip. So I'm kind of giving it that color blend from red to yellow. So this is the just orange stage. And I kind of drew some lines, kind of coming down some of the veins, for a better word, of what it kind of looks like in this decoupage of the tissue paper. I kind of hit a little highlight of that with that orange. And then the last touch on this is to put this kind of yellow, it's like a little hint of orange in the yellow, right at the very, very tip. So I'm covering up any portion that I see that is still that coral tissue paper. Now we're at egg number 3, which I have also decoupaged 2 layers of tissue paper onto this egg, allowed them to fully dry, and then I'm going to paint the entire egg red. Okay. Now I'm going to come back after the red dries and I'm going to use tacky glue, and I'm going to glue on these black pebbles. So they're kind of just like pebbles you would put in a fish tank, just little tiny rocks, but they're solid black. So I'm putting this all over the outside, and I do it in sections, allowing this tacky glue to kind of set up and really stick before I come back and do another section so that my little rocks don't slide off in between. So let it dry, come back, tacky glue all over just kind of one section. And then I dip it into the rocks, and when I do that, I try to make sure I just have one layer of rock there, because I do want some of the red to show through, and then I just fill in any big holes by hand. And this is what that looks like. It is a lava dragon egg. So I think that turned out really nice. I really like this. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you love this as much as I do. I think it turned out great. If you have not yet hit that subscribe button, be a treasure and hit that button below so you don't miss out on any of my upcoming crafting adventures. I'll see you next time.